And hello and welcome to another Zoom meeting and podcast of Here's Tom with the Weather, where we investigate the plethora of higher powers that populate the vast universe of 12-step recovery, where alcoholics and addicts can riff out on steps 3 and step 11 as prescribed by the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, and who encourage us to find some kind of higher power as long as it's not us. We speak to people with all manner of higher powers, from those who might be atheists, Sufis, agnostics, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, followers of Islam, Hermetics, paganists, non-duality. We'll take the lot. We leave no stone unturned. It's our aim to promote understanding and open-mindedness so that alcoholics and addicts can find a higher power of their own to stay sober or stay clean and carry the message. We promote tolerance and empathy for folks who might just have different spiritual practices than us. For us, it's all about live and let live. And please remember, this is not an AA meeting or an NA meeting. It's just a Q&A where we do a question and answer of their version of the truth, whatever that might be. And just a couple of quick messages before I introduce our guest. We have a website, so if you want to see some of our past videos and events that are coming up, go to htwtw.com. And also, just a quick reminder that we run this account for free. The podcast is free. The YouTube's free. So we welcome any contributions via PayPal, which you can go to at gilwriter@hotmail.co.uk. That's GIL Writer, WRITER at hotmail.co.uk. Anyway, as I was saying, sometimes we speak to seekers, to gurus, and people not necessarily in recovery, but today we are. Today, we're talking to Jessica Todd. Hey, Jessica, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So thanks for coming along. And I've just got a quick bio to read out. And I just reading when you sent this to me, I was so excited about it. It's really great. It's really what we're all about here. Jessica has been sober since 2017, which she describes as the biggest accomplishment of her life thus far. The first 3 years of her recovery were spent away from the program because she gave up working the steps because she couldn't let go of the very Christian aspects of the NA program. She says she stayed away because she couldn't relate to all the people who'd found God as their higher power. Then she came across something called Satanic Recovery in July 2020. At that moment, her recovery received the revamp that it needed, and since then, she's worked with a sponsor and successfully completed the steps. She worked closely with others and has started a Satanic Recovery in-person meeting of her own in San Diego. For the past 14 years, divination has always been an important part of her life. In 2014, she went to rehab where they confiscated her tarot cards. They would not have let them. They didn't let her have them until after she left the program. She says that right from the start of her recovery journey, tarot was frowned upon, but through this Satanic Recovery, she discovered that there is no one way to work a program. She holds a tarot card Zoom recovery meeting every Saturday night, which incorporates tarot into her recovery. And the point of this meeting is to help everyone understand that divination can be used by anyone working a program. And I will be putting details of her tarot recovery group into the chat and underneath in the YouTube channel and on Spotify. So, Jessica, that's a hell of an introduction. Thank you very much for coming along, and it's good to see you.
You're welcome. It's good to see you too. I liked your introduction as well. Sounds like I'm in the right place.
You certainly are. I would say I was so excited when you sent, like I said, I was so excited. So can you, first of all, let's just get one thing clear. And I think I know what the answer to this. And we had a guy called Ben Dean on last year, who's very much involved in the Satanic Recovery organization. He wrote a book which has really influenced a lot of people's lives for the better, might I add. Let's get this clear. What does Satanic Recovery mean?
So Satanic Recovery is the 12 steps, right? From a satanic perspective, which is all about the self. So for me personally, when I look at the steps, I see higher power, I see God, and I couldn't get through it. So Satanic Recovery takes those steps, tells it from another, he keeps it the same 12 steps, but he tells it from another perspective. So it's easier to take in for somebody who has a God problem. So for me, it's not just Satanism either. You can have any higher power. And it's not just, you can use the group as a higher power. You can use God as a higher power. You can use a doorknob as a higher power. It's all encompassing. Any deity. It can be yourself. It can be It can be a Christian God if you want. Like, we just want people to see that you can stay clean without the Christian God, but we do not discriminate against people who do believe in that.
I think I remember last year, and I had it was just a wonderful meeting with a Q&A with Ben last year. But in the lead up to when I was telling people that we were doing stuff about Satanism, the word Satanism in itself is a word which has all sorts of connotations. And I actually received death threats on Facebook Messenger from people who thought that I was in league with the devil and in league with Satan. Is this something that, I just want to clarify that that's not the case, not necessarily the case, but it's not, you're not sort of like talking about drinking blood and stuff, are we? We're talking about something that's a little bit more, that's different to that.
It's very funny. People will be curious about our meeting and they will think that it's about, sacrificing chickens, or they'll think that we're doing this satanic stuff, and they'll come to the meeting and be like, wow, this is just a very open-minded, honest meeting where we can let our emotions be free. We can talk about our traumas. We can talk about anything we want here. But yes, people do come into it thinking that we are worshiping the devil, or, growing up Catholic, you're taught there's Jesus and God and there's devil and Satan. And we don't want to have anything to do with the devil and Satan. So very early, I knew that. And when I did dedicate to Satanism, it was an escape from Catholicism. So it was worshiping a deity called Satan or the devil. It was my way of breaking free from Catholicism. But that was when I was using. So when I got clean, I realized, hey, there's more to this. There's a spiritual side to it. And it doesn't have to be worship of anything. It's more about identifying the different aspects within myself, self-empowerment, and growth, knowledge. There's always going to be a stigma against the word Satanism, and that's just the way of the world. But for me personally, that's not what it's about. In the beginning, it was. There's all different facets to every religion, and especially Satanism. It is a scary word to people, though, especially people who follow Christianity.
Yeah, I vividly remember I had for want of a better word, I had a week from hell in that week leading up to that meeting with Ben, because it was literally, they were firing from all sides about it, and it was hysteria. It really was. I'd never experienced anything like it from my own personal point of view. And it was just funny how people were threatened. But anyway, that's by the by. So tell me a little bit about Jessica. I was really interested in that bio. Tell us a bit about your story you said about the Catholicism. What was your life? Can you tell us about your sort of the weeks leading up to you getting sober, and what happened and how you got sober? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure, I can. So in 2014, I was very heavily into Satanism, and I did a very what I viewed as a powerful ritual, and I tried to affirm that I was pregnant, because my whole using, I said, I will not get clean unless I'm pregnant, because if I'm pregnant, I will not hurt this baby. So I did this ritual, and I was very focused on it. And I remember one day I was just at my breaking point, and I told myself, I'm going to go to the hospital and see if I can get on some medication or anything that will help me get clean. And they took my blood, and I fell asleep in the waiting room, and they thought that I ran away. They were going to send the cops to come find me, but they took me back and told me that I was pregnant. So after that, I decided I was going to go into a program. I just wanted to get in, and I stayed in for, I think, 29 days. That's the program that took my cards. They were very scared of my cards. They don't want me giving anybody readings, because there's only one way in a recovery program, NA or AA. There's only one way to work a program, and that's higher power, which is God, and tarot directly interfering with that concept. So they did take my tarot cards. I made it 30 days in the program, got my phone back, and I left. And I told myself that I wasn't going to use. And as soon as I went home, I did call somebody, because the ritual of shooting up, everything that goes into it, that's what I was addicted to. And I just wanted to do that one last time. And I remember I was making my shot, and I drew up, and I went to go put it into my vein, and I couldn't do it. I could not. and I started crying and I was angry with myself. Like, there's plenty of mothers out there who can do this. Why can't I? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just so angry with myself. So I squirted it out. I drew up my blood twice and I went to an NA meeting. And my whole pregnancy was very NA centered. I went to meetings almost every single day because it worked for me. And I had a beautiful baby boy. And he's 6 years old now. But after that, I did want to try drinking. I convinced myself that, alcohol and weed is legal. So, I should be able to handle this. And it didn't work out for me. I was hiding weed around the house. I needed to have a pipe somewhere with a little bit of weed so that when I wake up in the morning, it's there for me. And it was very fiendish. And I started drinking again. And my breaking point with drinking was I ended up having non-consensual sex with somebody. And that was my breaking point. Like, if I'm blacking out and I'm not remembering anything, obviously I can't handle my drinking. So I went to the NA convention and they call everybody up and you say how much clean time you have. And my son wouldn't sit by himself. So I had to take my baby up on stage and say that I had 1 day clean. And everybody was super supportive. I was embarrassed to my core because I didn't want people to think that I was using meth when I had my, every time someone came out to me, I was like, oh, don't worry. It's not meth. It was just alcohol. You try. Don't worry about me. It was just a little bit of weed. But, after that, there's no going back. So I jumped right back into going to meetings again. I did find a sponsor. And every time I got to describing my higher power, I gave up. Every single time. I think I tried to go through the steps at least 3 times. And every time I got to that step, I was just like, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't agree with this concept. And it was through working the steps this time around, I've realized that was myself holding myself back. Like, I could have very easily pushed through it like everybody else, but I didn't.
So Jessica, so was that your experience with growing up as a Christian, and you felt that program, it had got you through that sort of pregnancy thing, but you had issues with the Christianity elements of it because of that history? Is that is that what it was?
Yes. So when I was little, we would go to Catholic church. I went to a Catholic school. And for me, Catholicism is very fear-based. Every night when I went to sleep, when I was 4 or 5, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. I would cry because I had sinned that day. And if you sin and you go to sleep and you die in your sleep, you're going to hell. And that's what I took from Catholicism. So it was very fear-based. And I wonder, when I look at my family, why it didn't affect them that way. Like, I took the fear aspects and I held on to it. Like, this is what I take from Catholicism is fear and death and hell. And so that's what it was. And through working the steps, when I see the God word, I go back to that little girl who's like afraid of this God because I'm a sinner. And that has always stuck with me. So yes, that's what I took. And those are those feelings and that bond that I had with Catholicism.
And that you got a resentment. So you didn't want to truck with any of that stuff. So you kind of did it on your own. Is that right? For a while?
Oh, yes. So after when in 2017, when I got clean, yes, I stayed home. I took care of my family. I took care of my kids. I told myself that I was getting better. I was making changes. I was taking care of myself. But yeah, I stayed away from the program. I didn't have anything to do with it. And I wasn't dating anybody, but I stayed clean. It was possible, but I didn't actually feel any change until after I did the 12 steps.
And so tell us what happened. So obviously you'd had some experience with Satanism, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. What happened? What was the moment like when, tell us the events leading up to that when you started doing the steps. What was the catalyst for that?
The catalyst was in 2015, I had bought Ben's book. I was searching online for anything that had to do with Satanism and recovery, and there's nothing out there, nothing. But I found Ben's book, and I bought it. And it was just, it's so important to me to be able to see those steps from that perspective, but it didn't drive me to do the steps because I couldn't share those steps with anybody. I didn't have connections to people who thought the way that I did. You know, when you go to an NA meeting, you can't share that you're a Satanist, and you can't try to connect with people who might think this. If they come in wearing a pentagram t-shirt, you can, you know, that maybe, okay, maybe I can talk to them about this book, but I kept this book to myself. So in 2020, I actually started dating again, and I met someone who had a lot of connections in San Diego. And I showed him this book, and he was like, this book can change people's lives. And it did. He had connections. He reached out to a bunch of people. We had like 30 people at the first meeting. And the Zoom meetings were going on. So I made sure that I was at every single Zoom meeting, and I was like, this might work for me. And then just seeing how we sell books at the recovery meeting. So it's just, I guess in San Diego, if you don't have those connections and you don't know where to look, you can feel very alone. But if you have connections, there's lots and lots and lots of people who.
I'm curious. I'm curious how the actual what actually was the pinpoint, the moment, because like you say, what it was. Well, I guess what was it about Ben's book? Because before you had some sort of experience with the sort of the traditional kind of devil worshipping, I guess is what you've said.
Yes.
And was it because it had that name, Satanism, that actually made it easier for you to consume?
Yeah, I think so. Easier to digest, but like it's also like taking step one, reading it from an NA perspective, and then or AA, because Ben's book is all about AA. Then underneath it, being it for the way that he translates that step is what made me want to do the steps. But for step 3, I think the point for me with completing my steps was when we got to the step where you describe your higher power. Sorry, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3. I still couldn't push myself to get through that step. But with my sponsor, they said, push through it. Just write it down, get it out on the book. So if I'm thinking about the God in the sky who's going to send me to hell if I sin, write that down. So I think the question that you're asking is, when did I find it in myself to do the steps? Right? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's it.
I'm pretty sure that it was that moment where I had a sponsor who thought the same way that I did, who could see what I see was wrong with the program, who could relate to me on my fears and what was holding me back from doing the steps and pushing me forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's I mean, we've had a lot of people on here, and we've had a lot of people who have alternative higher powers, and really there's many different ways of skinning a cat. And it's like we say in the introduction, you know, we investigate all kinds of higher powers as long as it's not us or you or us. You know, it's one of those as it is on the tin.
So I had to write out the God thing. I wrote floating man in the sky with a beard who could strike me down with lightning, and then go through that, then I could write out what my real higher power was. Do you know what I mean? But that blockage was still there. Even though I had this book and this connection and this sponsor, myself was still preventing me from getting to that step. So once I wrote it down, got it out of my head, I was able to move forward.
So you designed, you kind of were conscious of that. You had that kind of internalized that version of your previous idea of what that Christian God was, and you designed your own. Is that right?
Yes. So my higher power, if we want to go into that, do we want to go
I do.
Okay. My higher power, and I've always said this from the beginning, is my higher self. And that's not allowed. It can't be yourself, right? That's the rule. My higher self, I have not attained who I am going to become and who I want to become. So when I look at myself, I think of all the things that I want to be. Direct communication. I was so terrible at communication before my step work. Direct communication was on there. So my higher self is really good at communicating and can say what she means and say what she feels. And you know what I mean? So that was on there. What I want my higher self to be and what I want my future self to be has these characteristics and I want to attain those. Now, through my step work, I did attain some of those things. So once I attain them, there's going to be another version and other aspects of my higher self that I want to become, that I want to attain. So it's ever changing. So for me, having myself as a higher power, it's always changing. I have not attained who I want to become. And will it ever stop? So for me, that's what having myself as my higher power is.
That's fantastic. That's one of the best descriptions of step 3 I've heard. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. So just to go a little bit, and I'm going to just be agent provocateur. Are we talking about, do you have a supernatural, see the tarot card thing, but what's the supernatural element of that, and how does that work with the tarot cards?
So what I look for is symbolism. I have this really bad habit. I don't know if it's from a lot of meth use, but I have this really bad habit of following numbers or following like 11. If I see 11, or if I see any number from 1 to like 22, and it sticks with me and I see it more than 3 or 4 times, I'll come home and I'll find which tarot card that is and see if I can apply it to what happened during my day. Or if I'm sleeping and I have a dream about a stingray, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, okay, stingray, look up the dream depth interpretation and see how that applies to my life. So I see that as my higher self speaking to me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
My higher consciousness leading me in the direction that I need to go.
So this is kind of like your step 11. So there's the prayer and meditation. You are seeing signs in the outside manifest world, and you're bringing that back to give you some sort of God's will or a message from whatever your higher power is.
Yes. No, I don't even mind that.
To give you direction.
Yeah, I don't even mind that you use that word. I used to have that grudge against Christianity. And now when people say that, because I can understand how someone might see a number or see an animal, like, oh, God put that animal in the road so that I could see it. And, like look for, I can see how they could see that that was God. But the way that I look at it is I was driving in the car. I chose to get in the car at that time and go do what I need to do. So that was me. I made the choice to do that. So it's more like a self thing for me. But I can see how people would say that that was God who did that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, that makes
very
perfect
understanding.
sense.
Okay, good.
So, and when those, I'm interested in the signs thing. So
Yes.
Your higher self is sending you like there are other things like, I guess for me personally, I'll see things like clouds is a simple one, isn't it? You see clouds, you see shapes in clouds. Yeah. You might see shapes in hedges. I don't know. Is it like that, or does that mean I'm?
No, I love that. Yeah. I absolutely love that. I remember we could see a unicorn in the food, and it's like, do you see this unicorn? And most people wouldn't even bother to like notice that it looks like a unicorn. So I think taking time out and like really noticing your surroundings, some people don't do that, but when I feel like when I see things that it's magical, it's just a sense of like, okay, I'm on the right path.
It's mysticism, isn't it? It's like a shamanistic sort of thing, isn't it? Looking for signs and stuff. And so you would see a unicorn in your mashed potato.
Yeah, I just use that.
Get your tarot card and you'll look at you and you'll see what the unicorn says. Is that right?
No? I just use that as an example because it's something that I remember from when I was little.
No, but that's essentially this. Your practice that's how it works. Your system.
Yeah. Okay. So for tarot, I received my first deck when I was 14 years old. And my dad gave it to me, and he's Catholic. And he reminded me that only God knows the future. So if you have this tarot deck, it's a sin and you're going against God, but I'm going to give you this deck anyways. And it was just a pivotal moment for me because I'm like, oh, I'm defying God. But there were a few, I would take them to school and I would give readings to people. And I still do tarot the same way. I'm not the type of person to be like, okay, here's your card. And intuitively, I know exactly what's going on in your life. So I'm going to tell you. I'm the type of person where I'm going to give you a card and then I'm going to read the meaning of the card and see what you identify with. Do you know, I want you to basically see that you can do your own reading. But
wow.
I'm in school where I gave my friend a reading. He did a card every day. And his card on the bottom said that it wasn't the death card. Most people think the death card is bad, but we'll get to that later.
Good.
Described he was going to lose a close family member or friend. He didn't like that very much. And I remember the next day at school, he had told me that one of his very close friends had passed away in her sleep. And he was upset with me in particular. So I will never get a tarot card reading again. And that it did frighten me a little bit. Was it coincidence? Or no? But that stuck out to me, and it always will. I remember he was crying and just devastated because this person was very close to him.
Okay. Because obviously I'm going to have to ask you to read my cards or somebody else. I was thinking Joe C could probably do with a tarot card reading. He looks ripe for it. Our resident atheist agnostic, he would love that, I think. But I want to just talk. Did you actually ever mention in meetings what you were doing and what your higher power? Did you actually ever say that? And I'm just wondering if you did, what the reaction was.
Oh, in regular NA meetings?
Yes.
No, I kept it to myself. Sometimes I would do a good old Hail Satan after the Serenity Prayer. I'm not sure if anybody heard it. But you know what? One thing is funny is when the meeting first started, there was somebody who I knew from NA, and she walked right up to me and she said, I should have known you were the one that started this meeting. So I might have given off a few vibes or said a few things or given my perspective to a select few people. But I don't remember personally doing that. But she was like, I should have known it was you. So I must have slipped something every now and then. Or maybe
what was the fear though? Did you feel that you would be, and I'm not having a go at NA or AA or anything, I'm just saying, right. why were you hesitant to bring that up?
Because the program that they were working worked for them.
Okay.
I don't want to interfere or try to make people.
But didn't that stop you doing your program? You stayed away from meetings for 3 years. I mean, that can't be right, can it?
I think fear. I think fear from sharing who I truly was. Because growing up, when I opened up too much, it always bit me in the ass, and it can. So I went to a NA camping trip, and I did try to open up to someone about my perspective, and they ended up calling me a witch and making a huge deal about it. And we ended up having an argument because I didn't find it funny. So I'm guarded. I don't necessarily like conflict or being made fun of. I don't think anyone does. So I try to avoid it. Do I wish that I had been more open and honest about how I feel and what I'm going through? Probably. But, I'm grateful for this past year and where I'm at now, because I have like-minded individuals at the Tuesday meeting every Tuesday. I don't have to force people or try to talk people into seeing my point of view. It's easy.
How has it? I'm curious though as well. Just to go back a little bit. How has it kept you away from? How has it kept you sober? How is that? What is it about that higher power that's actually kept you sober or enhanced your sobriety or your clean time? What is it? Do you think?
You mean my higher?
It's a general. I mean, this is the universal question. It's not.
Right.
I'm interested to know because it seems to be, it's amazing that you've done it. I think it's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
I think there's many, many, many components. The fact that I cannot drink, and it was proven to me. The fact that I cannot smoke weed, it was proven to me by myself that I cannot do those things, keeps me clean. Now, my higher power, my higher self, showing itself to me in certain ways, that just enhances my life and makes me want to be a better person, which essentially keeps me clean. Also, I have to do ritual work. I do the tarot cards, and I have lots of friends. So it's just the program as a whole that keeps driving me forward and making me want to prove myself and be a better person for myself, my family, and my friends and kids.
That's amazing. So you've got a fellowship around, you've got a strong fellowship of support that, as you would with any sort of 12-step program, you've got a strong fellowship, and you're all focused on that goal of being sober or being clean.
Right. Yes.
Fantastic. So just I was wondering if Joe C is actually up for this. Joe, would you mind having your cards read? I'm sure he would. Mute there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm a skeptic, but I keep an open mind.
He does. He's very open-minded. You can tell. Joe, over to you, mate. Would you mind doing Joe's, please, Jessica?
I don't mind. I'm just going to do one card, and then I use the Crowley Tarot deck. I'm going to shuffle real quick. And then I read the meaning from a book. I will do that. Where are you, Josie?
Right here.
There you are. How are you today?
Toronto might be the answer to your original question, but
oh,
I'm the square.
No, I meant on the screen. I meant on the screen. So what we do on the Saturday meeting is we read the whole interpretation, and we ask people to share about how the card relates to their day, their recovery, their week, or just how they feel about the card. It's not necessarily me coming at you and telling you this is what the card means and this is what's going to happen to you, because that's not what keeps us clean. What keeps us clean is staying in the moment and being able to relate to the card and applying it to our recovery. So we'll probably just do a present card for you. I'm going to do what we do on the Saturday meeting. I'm going to put 3 cards out, and then you choose card number 1, 2, or 3. Did you freeze?
No, I'll take card number 1. Because, perverts pick 3.
And I'll show you your card.
I got to big up the screen. What do we got?
Lust.
So
And then I picked the lust card, so it made me giggle.
I'm just going to put that on pin so people on YouTube can see that. I'll put you on. I don't know how to do that. Wait on, so everyone can see that up close. Where are you?
Oh.
Hold on. So I'll make it spotlight for everyone. So put it up screen there, and I'm just going to describe it for our audio. Just describe the card, would you, Jessica?
Card number 11 in the tarot deck. It's
got a voluptuous
Babylon.
golden-haired woman,
Yes,
naked, riding a lion.
it's Babylon.
With faces on it. Babylon.
If you want to look her up, she's actually one of the deities that I was looking into to maybe apply to. For me, I look to the aspects. We'll talk about this later. I look at the aspects of deities, and then I can apply them to what I want to become. And this is the book that I used.
Great.
That's called the Crowley Tarot.
Handbook of the cards.
Yep.
Yes.
Jimmy Page was a big Crowley fan.
He was.
Oh, goodness.
I hope it's not bad news.
No, this is one of the major arcana cards. So it's
Wow.
The first 22 cards. So there's a lot. So I'm just going to go by intuition and pick a meaning. On the level of consciousness, this card is an indication of an important transformation explained in alchemical symbolism. The highest goal for alchemists was the transformation of base matter into a superior material, gold and silver. They called the elixir necessary to produce this transformation the philosopher's stone, or the red lion. The lion was considered to be the substance which the baser materials were transformed into gold, transposed to human beings. This means that it is our task to neither damn nor emphasize the forces that are branded as the lower instincts, but instead to integrate them in such a manner that civilized consciousness and animalistic nature do not fight against each other, but are instead joined into one undefeatable power. In public life, this card means that we dedicate ourselves to our tasks with complete energy and true passion. It shows the courage and initiative we can summon up when we are physically at our peak. are caught up in our plans, and in the process, so joyfully feel how our powers flow through us. This trump then shows a phase of extraordinary creativity, great motivation, and to the same degree, also happiness and success. It can indicate as well that we are completely committed to our plans or that we fight for our interests like a lion.
Joe?
Was that Joe, did you relate to anything in the card?
Totally. The whole thing about alchemy turning something into something greater, isn't that what the whole recovery thing is, right? You know, taking my addiction and the path I've led and making the most out of it, bringing value to my life and the life of others. Sure.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, that's, I think you've,
that's why this responding to Joe, reading it and then hearing his response, what he related to, is what I like most about the tarot meeting. Because like I said, it's not me telling you the meaning and then telling you what you should feel or what you should think. It's you telling me a sentence or what you heard from the card and how it relates to your recovery. And then I learn from you too. It's all about knowledge. And I like feeling people's energy and emotions through the cards too. So Joe, if you want to look up that card later and see how else it could be applied to your recovery or your life, that's always fun too.
That was the Babylon card, did we say? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So could you tell us, give us a brief rundown before I'll get Joe to come in and ask a question in a sec. Could you just tell us how a meeting runs, how one of your tarot recovery meetings run? Sure. From beginning to end?
Yes. We open it up just like a regular meeting. I do sigil work, and I don't know if anybody is interested in hearing about. Does anybody know what sigil magic is? Okay.
No.
You would take a sentence, say an affirmation. I am strong. And you take out all the vowels, you take out the double letters, and you're left with whatever letters are left. You make a symbol. And then you focus on that symbol, you put your energy into it, and then you burn it and you let it go and you forget about it. And then it manifests into your life. So in the meeting, we open up with a moment of silence, and we use this sigil for everyone to look at on the screen and just send their energy to the sigil. And me and my friend, we wrap our decks with this, just so we get the energy of everyone flowing into the meeting and flowing into the deck. We open up with a few readings. We open up with the speaker's choice. And then we also have a quote on there that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I could send it to you later. We open up with a quote, and then we just get going. Like I said, I put the 3 cards out and everybody chooses 1, 2, or 3. I read them the meaning of the card and they relate back. And it's just one of my favorite meetings. And did I ever think that it would be possible to do a meeting like that? No, never.
And so so that's part of your service commitment as well for your fellowship, is you run this meeting and organize that, and doing service in that group helps you as well. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Great. And the steps, like you do the steps are sort of as we are, or I think Ben said there's a bit of a change goes on with his serenity prayer, etc. from memory.
Yes,
they're kind of more or less the steps. Yeah.
It's you want to know what the serenity prayer is that we do?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I invoke thee to witness as I develop the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And then we close up the meeting.
I'll have that. That sounds pretty good, actually. I'm saying, so now let's get your victim there. Joe, did you want to ask a question? I'll just unmute you there.
Sure. I wanted to ask a little bit about, it hurt me so deeply when you were talking about being criticized or rejected for your core values in an NA meeting. And there's something I call kind of the myth of liberalism in AA or NA, in that we do try, like this book here, Living Clean, is written in 2012 and is pretty modern, and it talks about how we can't pretend that spirituality isn't central to NA, but there's room for all people's beliefs, including those who don't have them. And it says, our right to our own spirituality in NA is unconditional. And that means we must also allow the right to others. It's not very complicated, but it's one area of recovery that we seem to love to complicate. Any single definition of spiritual principles would be too restrictive for us. Our traditions remind us that NA is not a place where any single spiritual path is endorsed. And so that's the principle of it. But the reality of it is this, need that if you don't conform to the popular view, then you're not going to get sober. And, I'm super glad you have, as I have, found and formed a group of like-minded people. But with the strength that you have from that meeting, do you still attend other NA meetings, and do you find their intolerance more tolerable, or is it still something that is a barrier?
I don't see it as a barrier anymore. And I could very well go to an NA meeting or an AA meeting because I don't hold that hate, or I don't hold any contempt towards their higher power anymore. And I may have grouped everybody. There's just so many people who go to meetings and they talk about Jesus and they talk about God. So as a newcomer, or as anybody who's in the program, I know you're not supposed to talk about your religion, but they do it anyways. So I think I might have grouped everybody into a bubble and just said, this is the way they do it. So I felt left out because of that. But it is much easier for me to go to an NA meeting or an AA meeting and just accept them for who they are. But I didn't get that until after I did the steps. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
I love what you read, and I wish everybody would read that book, or even just that little excerpt, because I feel like it pushes people. That book is promoted in San Diego at all the NA meetings, and it was suggested to me to read too. It's just, you don't feel like everybody is like that because they talk about Jesus a lot. And then there's this stigma that people, like, if you don't believe in Jesus or God, you're going to hell. And like, that's just the basis of Catholicism. So I might have projected that onto Christianity as to, I don't know if Christians believe that. But if I viewed everybody, if God is their higher power, then I don't belong there. So through step work, lots of layers were peeled, from my heart, to be more accepting to those types of religions.
That's great. I love that description you said about you became more accepting when you did the steps. So the problem was with you. You did the steps and you sort of accepted that. I think that's, love and tolerance, I guess,
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Who knew? Now I've got a question. PK, I know PK. PK from New York's got a question. I'm going to ask you to unmute there, PK. Over to you, mate.
Awesome. Hey, Jessica, thank you so much for being here and speaking on what you're speaking on. I just had a question for you now, and I may have missed it early when you first started speaking. And basically what I was thinking about was basically, with my experience in the program of recovery, the higher power can be anything except ourself. But I'm wondering what you're talking about being an internal higher self, if this is just like a part of you, like a subconscious or a super id, a Krishna consciousness, Buddha nature, something that is literally within you that you can directly experience or have conscious contact with, or is it a gut feeling? Again, you might have explained it. And just recently you did say something about a witness. So maybe, is it like an impartial narrator that watches your whole life? I'm just wondering, because it's very, very interesting, the concepts that you're presenting. And with recovery, I find it's such an open-ended arena that it should be, anything should go seemingly, but this one thing is kind of taboo, which is it can't be you. So I'm curious to see what part of us it is that you refer to, unless I've mistaken everything or mistook everything.
No, I don't think you did. And I really like that question. I don't have a picture in my mind of what my higher self looks like. I just imagine in my mind, and this is going to sound a little funny, but one time I took a lot of mushrooms. Stay with me here. And I was sitting in the back seat of a car, and this voice came into my head. This is when I was not a Satanist yet. It was a woman's voice. And it was so comforting and calming. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to become this woman. Like, who is she? And I realized that that was me. It was a different voice, but I knew that that was me. That's the only part that I remember of that day. But I knew that that calmness and all those characteristics that I gave that voice that was in my head that I heard was me. So I wanted to become that. Years of drug addiction after that, I fell away from that and I did not become her. But through this program, I'm more in touch with her. And like I said earlier, I could see how people could see symbolism or signs and or coincidences and be like, that's a gift from God. But I see it as I put myself in that place at that time. I made choices all day to lead me to that point. And here I am. So it's my doing. But I do not have, I think it would be more a subconscious thing or a conscious thing that I relate to. I think I'm most in touch with my higher self when I am doing meditation or ritual work, or when I'm just following my intuition on something. If that makes any sense. I've been saying
that's amazing. That's wonderful. That's what. Thank you, PK. That's great. I wish maybe you should host this. That was wonderful. So you're basically, your future self is summoning you to realize yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Become. Of course, I'm a human. I can become stagnant and not do anything all day, and that's kind of like falling away from your program. Like when I'm not actively doing ritual work or doing work or working a program and being of service, fall away from becoming my higher self. So of course there's going to be days and weeks, and I have mental health issues that are going to pull me away from that. But eventually I'm always called back to my purpose, which is meeting with you today, or doing my tarot card meeting, or even just lighting some candles over there.
It's yeah, I'm kind of, it is very, very beautiful, actually, very beautiful in terms of how that's worked, because you're kind of using your future self as calling you, and it's asking you to do the steps in order for for you to find it. It's amazing. Tell us about, you mentioned before about your meditation and your ritual. Can you tell us about your ritual, please?
So I have not been practicing as much lately. I was at this weird crossroads with my spirituality, where I have been dedicated to Luciferianism and Satanism and the left-hand path for many, many, many years. So I came to this crossroads where I was like, something is missing. And so my son has been going to Christian school, and I've been listening in on that. I've been trying to read up on different religions and like trying to become more open-minded and around, like, I was just thinking the other day, like, I don't think my recovery should be a flip of a coin where it's either left-hand path or right-hand path. I think it should be a roll of the dice, and I should be more well-rounded when it comes to everything. I've fallen away from my ritual work, but normally I open up with the Kabbalistic cross. I do an invocation of, my higher self or a certain deity. I believe that there's different energies that we can tap into. And that's the point of my ritual work, is to tap into those energies those feelings and that knowledge, and go into a meditative state. Normally when I'm doing my ritual work, as soon as I do the Kabbalistic cross and the banishing, I will pull a tarot card and a rune, read what those meanings are, see if it's a past, present, or future kind of thing. Close out with the invocation and the Kabbalistic cross again, and then try to just meditate and still my mind, which is almost impossible. For at least 1 or 2 minutes. My brain is always going. So just to stop and not think about anything is really hard for me. But even if I could do it for 1 minute, I still count that as meditation. Also just focusing on my breath. Ben Dean, I have to give a lot of credit to him because he worked with me a lot in finding this magical practice and breathing techniques. He's somebody who I can reach out to and give me advice when it comes to ritual work. Because I wasn't actively doing any of this before. I needed help to be on this path. So he definitely helped me with that. Also, there's candle meditation. Each candle color represents a different element. I like black candles because they draw out negativity, and even just turning off the lights, lighting a candle and staring at that candle and not thinking about anything else counts as meditation. It's much easier than I thought it was going to be.
So there's a form of self-inquiry there. So you're finding that stillness of no thought. So that goes right across all the kind of major spiritual paths, I guess, doesn't it? That's amazing. You mentioned, and also you said the word invocation, and I know that somebody had referred to you as a witch in the past, and I don't want to but can you recite any invocation? Is there anything that you could recite for us today?
The serenity prayer that I
No, is that it? Okay.
Just kidding. So for the invocation, it's nothing that I would feel comfortable doing on a Zoom meeting. It's a more private thing for me. I don't know if you could ask Ben. I think he's more open about that kind of. But like I said, I have fallen away from my practice recently. So I just know for me, there's different energies that I can tap into, and I think anybody could with practice. Some people and religions like to call them demons, or you know what I mean. But I just see it as energy and knowledge and feeling. So there's more intricate invocations that you can do if you're really into it. But this is more just an invocation of my higher self.
So there's some sort of, like when you say demons and stuff, there's sort of like dark vibrations, I guess, is for want of a better word, and that those kind of permeate here and there through this particular fabric of time and space. And I'm not that's not sort of half-assed quantum garble. No. Is that what you're sort of saying? Is that what you mean?
I'm just going to say, for me personally, that's what I feel. I'm not here to be like, this is the way that it is. I've been saying that this whole time. I'm not going to say this is what it is. This is the only way. I'm more like, this is what I have found, and this is how I view it.
Okay. Now we've got a question I think it's from Carol Nola. And Carol, do you want to ask it? If you could just be quick, that'd be great. I'm going to unmute you. Carol's got a really nice question. There you go, Carol.
Yes, thank you. Jessica, the way you approach your program is like emotionally sober alchemy. And I like that because it incorporates the change and growth, which, for me is the purpose of sober living. But when a challenge arises for you, does your mind go to which step am I not working? Or would you go to the tarot first?
That's a very good question, actually. I guess it depends on the problem. I tend to, and this might be a little embarrassing for me to say, I don't jump to the steps maybe as much as I should. I'm not like, oh, which step do I need to do a step 10 right now. I am not that type of person. I actually reach out to people. That is my, when a problem arises, I step back and I look at the problem. And this is only because of step work, and step 10, then I'm able to do this. So I can say this is a good question. I'm in an issue or a problem. I take a step back and I try to look at every perspective and what I did to put myself in that situation. And it breaks down walls. For me, before the step work, why is this happening to me? What did I do to be in this situation? Why is this person so mean? With step work, it's not like that anymore for me. It's more like, this is a problem. What did I do in this problem? What feelings came from this problem? And what can we do to move forward and fix it? So I hope that answers your question. I probably do need to go back and apply step work when it comes to that, but I'm more problem solving. Like, I have friends that I reach out to, like, for instance, at school yesterday with my son, because he's in a homeschool community, there was an issue that arose with other moms. And I was only able to see this situation from my point of view and stick up for my son because I'm mama bear in that situation. But when I came home and I opened up to my friends about it, they were like, oh, well, I would have felt uncomfortable too. It just helped me see all the different perspectives. So I use reaching out, I think, in my recovery toolbox most of the time. And that's just because I have a close-knit friendship in the recovery program.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
That is a great question, Carol. Just to remind everyone that we're here every Friday. We will be at least until February, I think. So we come back, and next week we have none other than Peter Russell. Now, you may or may not know Peter. Peter's very big on the non-dual circuit, and he's going to come along and talk to us about meditation and consciousness. And he is somebody who's well into the scientific basis of consciousness, and I'm very excited. But for now, we are with Jessica, and I've just put her meeting details in chat, and I'll read it out for anyone who's listening. And it is. I'm just going to put it here. Jessica's Recovery Support Saturday Tarot Group, every Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. in the UK. That's a bit late for us. 11 a.m. on Sunday in Australia, and that'll be 1 p.m. in New Zealand. Zoom ID 837-2213-4679 with the passcode Principles, as in principles before personalities, not PALS, but PLES. All in caps, is that right, Jessica?
No, I don't think it's all in caps. I think the first letter is capitalized. Yeah.
Oh, you better talk to Ben Dean about that, because I've got it down as all caps.
It's not all caps.
No, it's not all caps. Okay, I'll amend that.
You know what? You just made a connection though, because people have been struggling to get into the meetings. So
that's why.
It does
good
look
old
like
password.
It's all caps.
The good old Zoom password, yeah.
That first P is bigger than all the other ones, so
foils them every time. That's definitely a Zoom era issue, isn't it? A COVID era issue is getting the password right. So just finally, and I want to there's a couple of questions that I ask everyone. You mentioned before about tell us your idea of. You said before about what your higher self and your God. Have you got? Can you relay any kind of spiritual some sort of really freaky experiences that you might have had in your sobriety that have, that really that have really reinforced your spirituality? Anything that's sort of gone, a little bit Twilight Zone or X-Files, anything like that?
No.
Nope.
When I was young and I was Catholic, and I'll try to make this quick, I was constantly being attacked or berated or scared by spirits, ghosts, if you may. And things would move, things would make noises, and it really bothered me. I hated it. I think it was fear of Catholicism, and then fear of whatever is happening to me. And I know that fear perpetuates those kinds of things. So when I did dedicate to Satanism, what drew me to it was that all that would stop. That when you become a Satanist, you're more powerful than any of that. So that's what drew me to it. And when I did my dedication ritual for the first time, dedicating to Satanism, that was in there, and that all stopped. And it hasn't happened since. I just picture when I did that a door, and that door was locked, sealed shut, forever in my mind. And I've been trying to open the door again, and it hasn't been opening. It's hard to open. And I haven't figured out how to open that door back up. So I don't know if you were referring to spiritual, like ghosts and stuff like that, or if you were just referring to like coincidences. Oh my gosh, I'm on the right path. And I think I explained that when I see coincidences, I just know that I'm on the right path. Like, but I can't think of anything specifically.
It's okay.
Out in my mind, right?
I know what you mean. I was particularly interested in how you draw meaning from things in the world, or the world around you, whatever it is, and you draw meaning from numbers and stuff. I think that's very much the mystic way, I guess, which is very, very interesting. So I've got one more question just before I ask that. Just say we always have a little bit of fellowship afterwards, and a lot of people ask the questions that they don't want to ask now, so that means I shut up and they just get to have a bit of a free for all and ask you. So would you mind hanging around for about 10-15 minutes after the meeting?
I don't mind at all.
Great.
I blocked it out for you.
You're a good one. And are those kids all right? You got them watching cartoons or screen time or something? Are they good?
Quiet, so they must be watching a Disney movie or something.
Thanks. Say thanks to your mum for us, or your mom for us, if that's okay.
I will.
Yeah. She's a good sport. So here's the final question. Sorry. What's Ben's book called, by the way? I know we've referred to it a couple of times.
Uncover Satan, Recover Thyself. And it's on Amazon.
Sure. By Ben Dean. Okay, yes. That's great. Final question. So your higher self has seen fit to make you a billionaire. Wow. And you've worked those steps so well that it's happened. And through fortune and hard work and dedication, you've made a lot of money, and you've decided to buy yourself a super yacht. You're a big sailor. You've always wanted to go sailing around the world. So you set sail off the coast of California, and you head into the South Seas, and you've got all your worldly possessions. You've got your kid with you. You've got your mum. You've got all your books, everything. And you're going down past Fiji, and you hit a coral reef, submerged coral reef, and your precious boat starts to sink rapidly. So you chuck your mum overboard, and you get the boy into his life raft, and you push him towards an island, and you've only got time to go into your library, grab a plastic bag and get your favorite book from your library, put it in the bag, dive overboard, splash, swim to the deserted island where you await rescue with this one precious book to read. What's the book? Who's it by? And why?
I am a Libra. Do you know how hard it is for us to make decisions? I love your description, though. I love that. I can picture all of that in my mind. My favorite book, gonna make me dig. That's so funny. I don't have it right now. I actually let a friend borrow it.
Just tell us what it is. Tell us.
It's called The Cat in the Hat. I'm just kidding. You want to know something funny is I've never read all of my books all the way through. I take what I want and I leave the rest. I'm looking at my shelf right now and I don't see anything that I would take with me overboard. I would grab my kids and I would grab my cards. And I have a really cool horoscope book over there, but like there are no other people on this island. So who would I read their meaning?
Exactly. There must have been a book that you've read that's maybe instrumental in your sobriety, or something that's really had a profound effect on your life. Other than Ben's book. Sorry, Ben.
Shel Silverstein. I would grab a Shel Silverstein book.
And what's that?
It's called In the Attic.
Oh.
Have you ever read Shel Silverstein?
No. Shel, how do you spell that?
It's kids poetry book.
All right. Shel?
Yeah, Shel. And then Silverstein.
Silverstein.
Really weird, you guys.
No, that's good. Shel Silverstein. It's upside down, I think, apparently.
He just makes.
And he was also a famous songwriter, and he wrote for Dr. Hook. Are you kidding? Really?
Yeah, they make me happy.
Read us a poem then. Come on, read us a verse. Come on.
I read it to my son. But I used to read it when I was little, and they were so quirky. It's funny. I was prepared all night for any question you had for me. Except you caught me off guard. How dare you?
Apparently, the Giving Tree was an awesome book. Typical of PK to know who this author is.
That is such a good book. Yeah, so my son loves that, and it's such a sad story, but my son loves it, and I think it's one of the saddest stories that you can read to a child. But so was Cain and Abel. And that was my favorite story growing up from the Bible when I was little.
Are you going to read us a verse? You're going to read us a few lines.
This one's called The Spelling Bee. I got stung by a bee. I won't tell you where. I got stung by a bee. I was just lying there. It tattooed a message I can't let you see that spells out, hello, you've been stung by a bee.
Wow. That's one of the most bizarre answers that we've had on this podcast, but thank you very much. You've been a great sport. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, everyone, next week we've got Peter Russell on Friday. Same place, same Zoom number. It's really great. Jessica, thank you so much for coming along. I'm going to hit the stop recording button. Thank you very much to Joe C. Thanks very much to Daz in the background. We've got Daz back on board. And it's been great. Thank you very much. And to Ian G there as well. So I'm going to stop recording. See you next week. And yes, we're off. Woohoo! Right. There you go, Jessica.
You caught me off guard.
I know. So funny. Anyone got a question? You can just go for it now. Anyone? Raise your hands. That was that was one of the best we've done in a long way. That was really good. It was wonderful. Thank you very much, Jessica.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It was good. And congratulations on your sobriety, and you stick to your guns. It's great. It's great. Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah. Very excited for you. And I'll make sure we give it a plug on the YouTube. On the YouTube and the Spotify thing, I'll make sure the notes for the meeting are there, and I'm sure we'll get a few people along. I can see people there nodding their heads, so that's great. So,
thank you.
Anyone got any more questions? Anything you want to say? Oh, PK's there, and PK and Maria. PK, you're first, then Maria.
Okay, hey, great, David. As always, you're the hostess with the mostest. Awesome. I love how the questions you ask, you bring out, some great insight in people. And Jessica, great. It's great to hear your story and your experience. So I'm still going to come back to this. I don't want to, come back to something that's sort of a can of worms, but I do, for me, what's always stuck with me, the higher power not being you is kind of the rule of thumb, no matter what flavor of recovery we have. I'm not necessarily saying I 100% subscribe to that, but I love what you were saying now. So do you feel like with the higher power, when you're saying it is you, but it's a part of you that's not you, yet it's within you? Is that kind of what you're getting at? Because to me, that kind of makes sense. Like it's a part of you that's there, but you wouldn't let it, that you almost had it in the trunk of the car, tied up with duct tape. But just if you could just, in other words, what you're saying, it's almost like the ideal you. So it is you, but it's also not you at the same time. I mean, I want to go back and listen when David, puts this up. I'm going to go back and listen because I think initially you did kind of elaborate on it, briefly about the internal higher self. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. Now, maybe I can't wrap my head around that because it's a part of my head that's doing the rapping, perhaps. So it could be like circular logic, right? But I just wanted to see if in a sentence or two, if you could just hit me over the head with a hammer or something so I can, even though maybe I can't get it. And that's maybe that's the beauty, that I can't get it. It can't be God. But seemingly it sounds like maybe it can be God.
That it can be God.
What you're saying, like there's this part of us that we can tap into, maybe
Yes.
an unrealized part of us. Is that what you're?
Right. Yes. And I did mention that I could see how people could see it as God. Because my son goes to a Christian school, and I see it every day. I'll just want to tell a little quick story real quick. I let my kids think that they're magical and they can change stoplights. I know the timing because you watch the lights and you know when yours is going to change. So I tell them to shoot the light and it turns green and they're just, I'm magical. Do you know what I mean? So my son always, I was like, change the light for me. And the other day he goes, the timing was perfect. He goes, God, can you please change the light? And the light changed. And he goes, oh my gosh, God is real. And I was like, I just was laughing because it was so cute, because I'm the one who told him, I knew the light was going to change. I'm the one who told him to say that at that time, because I knew the light was going to change. So I controlled that situation, but he asked God to change it. So he didn't see it that way. He saw it as God. So that's two different perspectives. And I can apply that to this concept right here. I can apply it to, I see my higher self as this woman who has good communication, good relationships. I would like to get married someday. That has not happened for me. Has a house, has understanding and caring and kind, and like some of those characteristics I already have. But I could always become more. I could always do more. I could always try to become more like her. And what do Christians do? They want to be like God in his image. For me, I want to become who I want to be from my image, who I think that I should become. So I think that might answer your question a little bit. There's so many different ways to look at this and so many different things that we could apply to this aspect. But I just think that stoplight changing because my son prayed to God was a great example of the different perspectives that there is something that that's magical about seeing yourself as your higher power. And there's something magical about the concept of God. It's all about balance now. And I wouldn't know that if I didn't take a step back and be open to other spiritual paths.
Open-minded.
Does that kind of answer a little bit? I can't really tell you like spot on. I can only do roundabouts, kind of like what you're doing, what I can see you doing with your head. It's like kind of where I'm at too. It's just all about grabbing on to what you believe and what you perceive as truth for yourself.
The head is never going to get it. There's no point. So you might as well just go with it.
I like your question though, PK. It just reminded me of my son the other day.
Thanks, PK, mate. It's always good to see you. Now, through the magic of Zoom, we've got somebody who's from Fiji by way of Sydney. So Maria, who's up very early in the morning in Sydney. Do you want to ask your question there? Good to see you, Maria.
Hi, Dave. Thank you. Hi, Jess. Jessica, thank you so much for, I'm just so glad that I logged on this morning. And, I grew up in Fiji, like David said, and I get a kick every time Fiji gets mentioned at the end of this. I grew up with that whole Christian, I grew up Catholic and in a small island country in the middle of the South Pacific. And I'm from an alcoholic family, and, throw all that in to make this extra fearful being who then had the, Satan versus good kind of thing. And I'm really, really grateful that I logged on this morning, because there's so many similarities. I really identify with a lot that you shared on here this morning. And what a gift for me to be able to see this and be here as well. It's so good for me. And forgive me if you've already sort of mentioned this. My memory is shocking still. I'm really early in recovery, but just feel so sad for the Jessica who may have not been able to have found a sponsor. You know, when that at that time when I came in and I was so lost, man, it would have been heartbreaking if I wasn't able to connect with anyone. How hard was it for you to find a sponsor? And you know, do you offer sponsorship now for people who are, you know, looking for maybe to do the steps in the way that you've done through Satanism and you know, using tarot and all that kind of thing, please? Thank you.
Thank you for asking your question. And I'm glad that you can relate, because how wonderful is it to be able to speak our truth and have people relate to that. And it's just, I wish that I could have this meeting in this group and be able to relate to you, especially because, you know, in NA, we don't really talk about this kind of stuff. We don't talk about the effects of religion and the negative effects that they had on us, because most people don't take any negativity from it. I feel like some people can grasp the positive and feel that love, but some people can't. And I'm one of those people who never really connected with like the positive aspects, like I'm going to go to heaven. I remember going to confession and then immediately coming out and looking at someone being like, that's the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. It's like, God damn it, I just confessed all my sins and I just sinned again. What was the point of even going in there? So it's just, I'm glad that you could relate. In Satanic Recovery, it was easy for me to find a sponsor because I asked Ben Dean to be my sponsor. Because he knew the book and he knew the perspective and he knew how to get through the steps with that satanic perspective. So it was easy for me to find a sponsor because I spoke up and I did it and I broke some rules. We're not supposed to have male sponsors and we're not supposed to do things another way. And that's another reason why I say this program works, is because there's no one way to work a program. Now, he knew the book, he wrote it, so it was very easy to get through the steps and do it from a satanic perspective. I do offer people sponsorship. Nobody's taken me up on it just yet, and that's okay. The fourth step is very hard for people to get to. Remember, I did have a sponsee, and I don't take it to heart that she doesn't message me anymore. We got through the third step. We made it so it would be her higher self. We wrote down all the things that she would want to become and all the things she wanted for herself. We get to that step 4. And the way that I did my step 4 was very thorough and easy for me to get through. And it didn't work out for her that way. There was lots of uncovered trauma that she didn't want to come to and talk about. So I do offer sponsorship, and I don't take it personally when someone can't get through it, because I did the same thing.
Great. It's been great. Thanks. Good to see you, Maria.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. I hope to see you at one of, I know it's going to be late, but there's other meetings if you ever want to come.
It's not bad, actually. That's 11
Check it out. I
a.m.
think it's 11 a.m. for
11 a.m. your time, yeah.
I'll make an effort to. I'll try.
I think your clocks go forward soon, but it's 11. It'll be 11 a.m. Sunday morning for you.
I'd love to see you there, because everybody feels, a lot of people feel the same way about Christian and Satanism. And it's just finding that middle ground is, I didn't realize how important it was until after I did it.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think they need a whole new fellowship for Kava, don't they, Maria? In Fiji. Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Kava, God. Yes. It's great. So listen, is there any more questions, or else we'll have to pack it in, but it's been great seeing you. Everyone. Oh, hold on. Look who it is. Unmuting you there.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, man.
Yeah, I'm Tank. Jessica, I just want to say thank you, because I mean it had to be hard to come up with it with all these people here. I know anyway, Baptist. I grew up Southern Baptist, and it was like I didn't realize it until I came into recovery, but I feared God, and it was like I was riding with the devil all the time, and it took me to get into recovery to realize that. But one thing I just wanted to say that I did relate to, you were talking about the signs. There was a time in recovery, I was going somewhere. Well, I decided to go somewhere, and before I went, I asked for a sign, and if I needed to go there or not. And on my way, I saw a buzzard eating something on the side of the road. So I turned around. And what I relate to is what you were saying. Like if I hadn't have gone, I wouldn't have had to ask for a sign. So I really like your perspective. And yeah, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome. You were actively looking for a sign too. So it was like you asked for one and then you received it. So in turn, asking, you're looking for one and you found it yourself. So I like that. Thank you for mentioning that. If
That's
you're
our friend Zach. Good to see you.
Right. There's praying too, right? You pray for something to happen, and that's a form of manifestation. If you're praying, or you're looking for a sign and asking for something to happen, it might happen. And then that just leads you to be on the right track. People pray, and then like my Nana prays for random checks to come in the mail, and she'll get a random check and just be so happy that she got a random check. She sees that as God sent her a random check because she prayed for it, and I see it as she manifested that.
Can you please give me the details for that prayer, please?
I'll ask her.
And don't tell anyone else.
Okay. We'll keep that a secret.
I think Laura, we'll make Laura's the last one, okay? Because I know you've got stuff on, Jessica, so you've got kids waiting.
Okay.
Laura, do you want to ask a question?
I just an observation. It is remarkable to me how non-woo this comes across to me. The way I'm interpreting what you're saying, I'm changing things, but I see, to me, it's extremely logical because it seems to be based on your consciousness, which is, all we can see. I think we're sort of like blind, like mole rats, and we're like, with our five senses and our sense of self, and y'all could be robots. There's no way of me knowing. I just trust. But the word satanic, I love, because it's kind of like the rebel of us who have to push that away and let something else in. It's like a positive thing, and it's remarkable to me, as me being so non-spiritual sort of person, how what you're saying is it just makes total sense to me. The numbers, because I'm a geometry person. I see people start talking about things, and I'll start like making diagrams, and in my brain it just works that way. So it's somehow for me it just works so well. It's incredible. It's exactly the opposite of what I thought it would be. Good. And I think it's remarkable, and I think it's brilliant. And thank you. As a recovering Catholic, thank you.
Right.
And, God was that person who like watched me pee, and
right.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm just blown away.
You're welcome. Thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate it. And like I said it during this whole thing, like that's just what works for me. I'm just speaking my truth. He asked me what my favorite book was, and I cannot think of that for anything in the universe at that moment. But just what works for me spiritually and as a program, to see it blossom into something that works for other people too. It's amazing. I'm super grateful for it, and thank you for saying that. I saw you shaking your head during the meeting.
I feel
up at the top.
it makes me feel more connected to
Right.
you and to other people who are on a path that I thought that I had no connection to, but it helps me understand. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, I'll put the details one more time of your meeting in chat there for everyone. So there you go. So Jessica's, and remember it's principal, small caps. Yes. You need to talk to that Ben about that. Hey, yeah, have a word. Gee,
David, I've really enjoyed being here today. Thank
well,
you.
listen, why don't you come back? We'd love to have you come and ask some questions. We're here every Friday, so you're more than welcome to come and join us as a panelist. It was great. Just for everyone's perspective. Like Joe always adds a lot of fun to it as well, because he comes from a total different, from that different end. So we've got people who are all different angles of spirituality. So you're more than welcome to come and join us. It'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that. I would. My son doesn't go to school on Fridays, so it's open for me, and I like Zoom meetings. Everybody complains about Zoom meetings. I'm like, I like it.
Not people in here. I'll tell you what. Joe C. I'll unmute that boy. He'll tell you. Don't get him started. Oh dear.
Oh yeah. We had a little podcast about it, and we sort of danced around the question: is Zoom as big a Kickstarter for the recovery movement as the Big Book was, right? I don't think it's going away when the pandemic goes away. I think it's just changed how people relate to each other.
I agree. That's how the our meetings even got started.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a generation of people who feel much more comfortable talking to phones and to computers than the older generation like us, I guess, like me and everyone. So it's just the future. It's definitely going to be the future. So well, it's now.
I'm not looking forward to parking problems and body odor, and, traffic and weather.
Yeah.
Right.
And if somebody keeps going on, if somebody opens their mouth and sort of they do that thing right before the end of the meeting, goes, I'm not going to say much, but, and then they go on. With Zoom, you can just mute, go and have your dinner, have a vape, Yeah.
I just wanted to mention one more thing about Satanic Recovery, the meeting.
Sure.
And there was a debate one time between me and a fellow person not a debate, but it's just an opposing point of view, like the topics of the meetings. There was somebody new coming in who wanted to have topics, and they were basing them on the 12 steps and on NA and AA. And it wasn't drawing, people weren't as excited as the topics. And the topics that I tend to bring because I was running a regular meeting too, they're more like therapy based or feeling based, or I would take an excerpt from one of my books about higher self and becoming your higher self, and then using that as a topic. So I don't think that happens much at in-person meetings or in regular NA or AA meetings. It's always give it up to your higher power, work a 10th step. It's always just recovery based. So I think bringing in the element of therapies or spirituality more so. I remember I went to a regular NA meeting and I chose the topic of self-awareness, and nobody knew what I was talking about. Nobody. They made it about selfishness. So they didn't understand the topic of self-awareness. So I think topics like that is what draws people to our meetings, because it's we're not just talking about work program or fake it till you make it. We're talking about self-awareness and therapy-based stuff. And I really like that aspect of this program.
Wow. That would have freaked a few people out, I would imagine. That's fantastic. Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. Hey, and if people ask you to share at AA or NA meetings, do you do that? To speak? Do you go along and do speaking?
I haven't been asked lately. I haven't really been networking with NA or AA.
You'd be open to that. If somebody contacted you, you'd be open to that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And who knows if there's newcomers there who need to hear
Exactly.
what I've said today, or who need to see that there's another way. And also, like, Satanic Recovery doesn't break away from those 12 steps. That's the other beautiful thing, is like we bring in the therapy elements and the self-awareness elements, but we don't break away from saying that these 12 steps work and that they can change your life if you choose to work them. We don't break away from that. So it is recovery. Essentially, if somebody doesn't like that we're having a talk about therapy, just refer back to the book where it says that you need to work the steps.
Yeah. Wow. It's well, look, go and look after your child. It's been fantastic. So you've been a great sport. I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you very much, Jessica. I'll be in touch. I'll send you a link to this meeting. It's been fantastic.
Thanks, everyone.
You've
All
been
right,
great.
thank you, everybody.
Cheers, see you, Carol. See you, Maria. See you, Pam. See you, Tony. See you, Mike. See you, Dazzo. See you, PK. See you, Laura. See you, Jess. See you, Sandra. See you, Jim. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.